Hi everyone, you're on Moby channel and I'm glad to see you on my channel again. In this video I will analyze in detail the whole 23rd season of Skibidi Toilet. At the moment it's the longest season, because let me remind you that it started with the 69th episode, which was released 2 months ago. So in this video I will make a detailed analysis with all the secret scenes. I will also tell you my theories, and at the end I will share with you my opinion about what we can see in the 72nd episode and in the 24th season as a whole. The video is insanely interesting, because it contains absolutely all the episodes that are part of season 23. So before we start, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel and join my Discord server. But anyway, here we go. The episode immediately begins with the fact that the POV operator, who is still a plunger cameraman, is attacked by Skibidi Toilet, and already here you can see the first Easter egg. Pay attention to the eye of this opponent, right? He has a faucet in his eye. This is a direct reference to one of the old screensavers of Valve. The operator gives an excellent side kick and sends the opponent into a knockdown. But a second later the opponent comes to his senses and attacks the plunger of the cameraman. But fortunately he manages to put his palm down, and the opponent with his sharp hand pierces the palm of the operator. Next, we see claws appear from the plunger's right hand. He seems to be a Wolverine, but where did he get them? After all, he didn't have this ability before. He hits the opponent with his right hand and pushes him away with his feet. Next, he stands on the floor and pulls out his improved plunger, which has turned black and has a lot of spikes on it. Also in this frame we can see the skeleton of an ordinary person. Next, the plunger cameraman strikes the opponent several crushing blows and finishes him off. Next, he turns around and we see how Dark Speaker Man fights with opponents. He skillfully and epically destroys each opponent, and if you look closely, you can understand that he is fighting with Skibidi parasites. This can be understood by their language. By the way, if you remember, there were also such parasites in Transformers. And in this frame, you can also see the skeleton of another person, but he is wearing a white coat. Does this mean that there were people in this bunker before? Write your theories in the comments. Next, one of the parasites jumps on the operator, but he fights him off with his plunger, but they almost manage to infect the Dark Speaker Man, and if you catch the frame, then at some point you can see how the Skibidi parasite connected to the Dark Speaker Man, but still he was able to remove it and eliminate it. Then the operator turns around and we see a very interesting picture. Yes, that's what you're thinking. All these agents are beating up the already defeated Toilet, and there is also a reference to episode 69. The cameraman in the red shirt nods to the operator, and this means they are on the right track. Next, Dark Speaker Man takes his knives, and in the window of one of the doors we see several Skibidi Toilet heads. Then epic music starts playing and all the agents go to the next door. When the operator goes to the main door, he also looks inside other doors and, for example, here we see a flaming Skibidi Toilet. I have a theory about who all these toilets are locked in a certain room, but I'll tell you my theories at the end of the video. In another room, we see the trembling head of the Toilet. Maybe he's cold. That's why he's shaking. Next, a lucky cameraman runs up to the main door to crack it with his device. At this moment, on his tablet, we can notice some kind of picture on his tablet. Perhaps this is a map of the bunker itself and he uses it to navigate where to go. And while he is breaking down the door, the operator looked into another room and there are Skibidi skeletons in it, and they are alive. Next, the operator turns back and sees all the agents calmly walking to the door, except for the agents of the Speaker Men. These guys can't wait to dance Jaga Jaga on the toilets. The agents go inside and inspect the room. And also the plunger operator notices a very secure door in this room, but after a few minutes you will find out what is hiding behind it. Then in this frame we can notice a toilet bowl and a pool of blood. What's going on here? In my next theory videos, I will try to answer these questions, so if you haven't subscribed yet, then be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on all notifications. Next, the operator notices how one of the cameraman's agents' heads falls from somewhere above. The operator raises his head and we hear the Skibidi Skibidi song, and then we see a completely new kind of Skibidi hybrids. He lands on the ground and immediately rips off Agent Cameraman's second head, and at this moment you can see something very red again. Are the agents for some part human? Or how to explain this phenomenon? Many agents go into shock, but one of them still started shooting at this enemy. But he was absolutely not affected by the paralyzing ray, because it is almost entirely made of metal. The plunger operator starts attacking him with his improved plunger, but then this cyborg blocks his attack and starts attacking him with his ultrasound. But it's good that Agent Speaker Man was there and helped his friend in the battle with this new monster. The finishing blow was the blow of an improved plunger. The enemy was defeated, the friends thanked each other for their help, and then an explosion occurs. Everyone turns around and we see how all the doors in the room open, and also another Skibidi Toilets and Skibidi Hybrids appear on the horizon. At this moment, a lucky operator shoots from his device at the door lock to close this door. He also opened several more doors and called all the other agents to him. They ran to the lucky operator, and he, in turn, began to close all the doors so that the opponents could not reach them. These two speakers managed to escape at the very last moment, and in that protected door was Skibidi Michael Jackson. Well, I definitely did not expect to see such characters in this secret bunker. Next, the agents of the speaker men are glad that they did not become a dinner for Michael Jackson's Skibidi and begin to flex right next to the closed door. But their fun did not last long, because after a few seconds the door was torn open and these very speakers who were fans of dancing were no longer dancing. The agents keep running on, and in a certain room you can see these inscriptions on the boxes. In fact, they don't mean anything. It's just part of the texture, at least I think so. Some agents have already run to the right door, but not everyone has come yet. An explosion occurs and we see how those same Gemini cameramen are running at them with all their might. The dark speaker man took the remote control from the lucky cameraman and tried to close the door in advance, but the plunger did not let him do it, and when the agents were almost there, Skibidi Michael Jackson flies in at full speed and the dark speaker man closes the door right in front of them. It shows that he did not want to do this, and then he again gave the remote control to the lucky cameraman. Next, POV plunger cameraman approached the dark speaker man, pushed him and hit him several times, but he struck the last final blow against the wall. And how strong this simple cameraman agent turns out to be. Where did he get so much power from? I think the plunger is hiding something from us. Then he turned to the closed door behind which the opponents are, and with his gesture he told them, "Go fuck yourself, you fucking Then he turned to the remaining squad and followed them. They are walking down the corridor, and in the distance we see some kind of yellow glow. This concludes part 1 of episode 69. The second part of episode 69 begins exactly where the first part ended. If you suddenly, for some reason, what happened in the first part of episode 69, then I advise you to watch my analysis, and also briefly remind you about it. In the first part of episode 69, agents continue to survive in a secret bunker of toilets, and unfortunately a large number of agents died in the first part. The main turning point in the first part of episode 69 was when Dark Speaker Man closed the doors before the wounded Gemini cameraman could run into it. But I think Dark Speaker Man did the right thing, because if he hadn't closed the door, he would have endangered the rest of his squad's agents. POV plunger cameraman was emotional, and so he succumbed to them and struck Dark Speaker Man several blows. I'm sure he didn't want to do this, but his emotions took control of him, because he had already lost several agents dear to him in this bunker. And we all thought that the second part of episode 69 would continue the first, that is, the sequel would be in a secret bunker. But as we see the second part unfolds outside the bunker, we are shown the very agent of TV Man, who broadcast on his screen everything that happens inside the bunker. I assume that this broadcast was also shown to other agents, otherwise how can we explain what we will see next? Next, we see the Titan cameraman, who destroys the last opponents who remained in this location, and despite the fact that he is severely damaged, he does it quite simply. Next, we see how the flying speakers bring the Titan Speakerman his blasters, which he lost from the explosion in episode 65. This scene reminded me of the events of episode 44, when the Titan TV Man was joined by speakers and he became the Titan Cinema Man. Next, we see how his new wings and cannons fly to the Titan cameraman by themselves. Why did I say that they are new? Because look closely, they are perfectly clean and without a single scratch. And the old wings and guns look completely different from how they looked after the explosion in episode 65. Then the incredible happens. The Titan TV Man utters a phrase that sounds like "stand still," and he begins to share the energy of his reactor with the Titan cameraman. This is the first time I've seen this, and it surprised me. And the next thing he says to Titan cameraman and speaker man is, "Let's demolish this place." And then we see a rather funny scene. Titan speaker man seems to be saying that, like, "Can you share your energy with me?" But the Titans show him this gesture, saying that nah, you don't need it. Next, as I understand it, the Titans take their places. I will assume that they surround this mountain. Titan TV Man is teleporting. The Titan cameraman flies away, and it seems that only the Titan speaker man does not understand what they are up to, but then he grumbles something and also takes his tactical position. Next, the operator turns around and we see how already trained cameramen and speakermen agents arrived at this place. In this frame, we can see that the agents are fully equipped. They have a jetpack, blasters, melee weapons, shotgun, headphones, protective lens, toilet paper, sconces. And also in this frame you can see another Skibidi Toilet, but this is not for long, because we also see the combat helicopters of the cameraman agents, which we saw at the beginning of episode 66. Next, we see how a helicopter gunship destroys the remaining toilet, and this character also catches our attention. This is a big cameraman agent, and in his hands he holds some very cool alien machine gun charged with the red energy of Titan Speaker Man. The agent himself looks very powerful. We can also notice a jetpack and an unusual coat on it. Perhaps it is bulletproof. Also in this frame we can see the medical engineers of the cameraman, who usually repair the injured agents. Next, our POV operator turns around and we see the cameraman's agent very well in full gear. He hands us all the necessary equipment. And then I see a shotgun, a jetpack, a backpack, headphones, and a protective lens. And also on this backpack we see the logo of cameraman agents. The POV operator puts on a backpack and we see how another agent has something like toilet paper hanging on his belt. But if you look closely, this is not an ordinary toilet paper. It looks very much like a grenade. I'll assume that this device looks like this to distract attention. Toilets will not immediately realize that it is a grenade, they will think that it is ordinary toilet paper. Next, this agent pulls out his machine gun, nods to us, saying that we are ready and can go, and this is the end of the episode. And that's exactly after that the secret footage begins. In the original, the agents just walk straight down the corridor towards the yellow light, and then the episode ends. And in the extended version, we saw that the lucky cameraman was leading the agents to the right door, and then the plunger cameraman again asked why they were not going to the yellow light, after which the lucky cameraman showed on his tablet what was going on there. And there we see the Titan G toilet, and it looks like this is the same G toilet that flew off the battlefield in episode 67. And in this fragment we see that he is sitting behind how he tells the toilets that there are dangerous titans outside and there is a risk that this place may soon be destroyed, so it's worth preparing for this and getting all the most powerful equipment. And it is possible that the Titan G toilet will receive some new improvements, because it seems to me that it stands in the place where the upgrade of the large Skibidi toilet takes place. But we'll see how it actually turns out in episode 70. And I'm also very interested in how a lucky operator has access to all the cameras in a secret bunker and why there are cameras in this bunker at all. Either these cameras were originally there and the secret agent got access to them, or these cameras were pre-installed. Next, when the lucky cameraman stopped broadcasting the recording from the camera, the door from where the yellow glow came opened and the opponents of the toilets began to come out of it. After that, we see interference, because all this time, as we remember, there was a broadcast of what was happening on the screen of the big TV man agent. And then we are already shown the second part of episode 69, which also included new X-Files, and let me also briefly tell you the second part of episode 69. Upgrades are coming to the Titans. Titan Speaker Man got his blasters back, and Titan Cameraman got new wings with a jetpack, which also had laser cannons. Let me remind you that he used to have machine guns, but because of the explosion in episode 65, they were severely damaged. That's why he has lasers on his shoulders right now. Next, the Titan TV man shared some of his energy with the Titan Cameraman so that his lasers and jetpack would be active. And if you look closely, we can see that at the moment when the Titan TV man was sharing his energy, the Titan Cameraman's new lasers turn blue. Next, the Titans of TV man and cameraman shake hands like real Gigachad friends. This is also a reference to the handshake of Titan Cameraman and Titan Speaker Man in episode 59, and after the POV cameraman turned on Titan Speaker Man, Titan felt a little jealous. After all, he used to greet Titan Cameraman like that, and now he's doing it with Titan TV Man. And here it is not entirely clear to me. Either the Titan Speaker Man asks to shake hands with him as well, or asks to give him some of his energy. But the Titan TV Man answers him that not now. You can listen to it for yourself. Next, the Titans take up their tactical positions around the bunker and the POV operator sees how reinforcements have arrived at this place. They were cameramen and speakermen agents with special equipment and more advanced weapons. Further, the POV operator is also given special equipment, and here the difference from the original is that the lens on the camera of the cameraman agent is not round but square, and also the protective lens on the backpack is also square. Next, the POV operator turns around, puts on all protective equipment, specifically a protective lens and headphones, and also picks up a machine gun. And to be honest, it doesn't look like the shotgun he had on his backpack. This weapon reminds me of what the big cameraman agent was holding in his hands, but only for the POV operator it is a smaller version of the machine gun. Further, while the squad of agents was walking into the bunker, one of the agents could be seen standing near the door and breaking it open. And as soon as the door to the bunker opened, the agents immediately opened fire on the toilets, and this ends the extended version of episode 69. Skibidi Toilet 70 Part 1 lasts more than 4 minutes and quite a lot of events have happened during this time. We haven't been waiting for this episode for so long for nothing. And it starts with one of the agents throwing a grenade in the form of toilet paper outside the door to the toilets, and here next to it we see another agent, whom we saw in the last 69 episode. This agent was a POV operator, and this can be understood based on what kind of gun he is holding in his hands. Also, next we see the very agent of the cameraman flamethrower, whom we saw from the information leaks, and as you can see, this weapon copes well with ordinary Skibidi toilets. Next, the POV operator turns around and we realize that the actions are taking place on the other side of the bunker. It is possible that this group of agents did not go down the right corridor, but along the left, and therefore they got to another part of the bunker. But where is the scientist then? I think he managed to fly further away, because there is also a road further on. And then we see a cameraman in an orange suit with shotguns shooting back at the oncoming toilets. He is very brave and does not seem to be afraid of opponents at all. It even reminds me a little of a cameraman's plunger, while the other agent is trying to run as far as possible and escape, but unfortunately one of the enemy shells hits our orange Rambo. But that doesn't mean he won't come back. After all, as you can see, he was simply thrown back by the shock wave. Next, we see how Skibidi cars are shown on the road, which are equipped with dangerous explosive missiles, and the second cameraman was also not very lucky, because one of the missiles flew right into him, and then POV big cameraman agent shows us the full power of his new weapon. This is a large laser machine gun, but instead of bullets, as you understand, it emits a red laser, and as we see it successfully copes with a fairly large number of opponents. And if you catch the moment, then in this car you can see the silhouette of a man. But is this really a secret agent? Or it's just a trick of the eye? In any case, the secret agent will show himself later in the episode. Next, POV Big Boy, thanks to his jetpack and a new powerful laser cannon, clears his way, and then we see a large number of those armored toilets that we saw in the information leak for episode 70 driving across the bridge. Another flying toilet tried to destroy Big Boy cameraman, but in the end the opponent was destroyed himself, after which POV Big Boy flew away a little to show new opponents the full power of his new baby, also destroying another flying opponent, then another and another. After that, a large projectile flew next to the POV cameraman, which caused interference from the operator, but fortunately he quickly recovered. Next, he came out of hiding and like a real Chad with literally iron balls flew into battle to new opponents. He poured out all the power of his new weapon until it overheated, but it absolutely did not cause any damage to the enemy, and then the enemy decided to demonstrate his guns to the operator. But fortunately at that time he flew Titan cameraman, and his presence literally destroyed the bridge over which the new armored toilets went into battle. The remaining opponents immediately began to attack the Titan, but as we remember from episode 69, the Titan cameraman was charged with the additional energy of the Titan TV man and was quite strong and energetic. Also, thanks to his new upgrade, he literally burned an armored opponent, leaving only his skull. And he decided to simply knock out the second opponent, and no new armor saved him. Next, the Titan cameraman is attacked again by an armored flying toilet, but at this time a portal appears behind him from which the arm of the Titan TV man gets out, and the Titan, like a real fruit ninja, cuts the enemy into 2 parts. Next, the POV operator looks at the Titan TV man, then turns a little and we see how the Titan speaker man, while flying to this place, destroyed another flying enemy. Next, the Titan TV man utters his first phrase in this episode, and it sounds like this: "Do it quick." Listen to it for yourself. And then it shares, or more correctly, charges the Titan speaker man with the energy of its core. And it seems that the energy of the Titan TV man has so strongly charged the Titan speaker man that he began to shake and sparkle with red lightning. Next, we see how the toilets flew at the Titans with dangerous weapons, specifically acid. And am I the only one who thinks that this is very stupid? Even if they drop it all on the Titans, they will probably destroy their own bunker. Or am I wrong? If anything, correct me in the comments. Next, the Titan speaker man roars loudly and turns on rage mode. His two blasters literally work like a machine gun, and he himself eagerly enters the battle and easily defeats all dangerous opponents. And one of the opponents flew so close to the Titan cameraman that he just took off his weapon and inserted it into the place of his missing hand, and now the Titan cameraman has acquired a new weapon, an acid cannon. Also in this frame, I noticed that the titanium cameraman has a protective lens. I didn't notice it before, but now it's clearly visible. Then after the enemies seemed to be over and the Titan finished the fight, a large number of opponents appeared in the sky, who surrounded all the Titans in one place. But Titan Speakerman has already faced this situation in episode 58. Therefore, I decided to repeat this tactic again. Only this time, instead of blasters, he activated the laser beam of his reactor and it spun like a disco ball at a disco, destroying every opponent next to them. And after this laser show, the Titan Speakerman sat down on a rock to rest, after which the Titan TV man uttered the following phrase, which sounds like 10 out of 10. And indeed it was not just beautiful, but also fast and effective. And of course, what kind of disco or laser show without a DJ? What if it's a Skibidi DJ? With such a homie, any disco is just super. But unfortunately, the disco is interrupted by the most unexpected character. This is Astro Toilet. But we haven't seen this before. He has a very unusual weapon. Titan cameraman fires his lasers at the enemy, but Astro Toilet somehow catches them and shoots back at Titan cameraman. But the Titan manages to protect himself with his hand. Next, the Titan TV man shoots at the enemy presumably from his reactor, but he manages to dodge, and then the Titan TV man utters the following phrase, which sounds like who the f you think you are. After that, he charges his blade and at the moment of POV Big Boy catches interference on his camera, but this is not the usual purple interference there, but green. And it's very strange to me. As I said earlier in my last video, perhaps the secret agent has subdued the Titan TV man, or perhaps the Titan TV man is following the instructions of the secret agent. What do you think? Write your theories in the comments and we can also write them on my Discord server. Next, the new Astro Toilet laughs and speaks to us in our usual ordinary English. He says you will all die. And at this time, a portal appears behind Astro Toilet from which the Titan TV man blade appears, but Astro Toilet manages to dodge and even somehow tear off the Titan blade, then throw it at Titan TV man, and then Astro Toilet flew away very quickly. But fortunately that Titan TV man managed to put his hand, otherwise, the Titan would have to change the main screen again. Next, the Titan pulls the blade out of his hand and we see an evil smiley face appear on all his screens, and we just saw this frame in the leaks. Then the girls come to our aid, and as we can see, they have all modernized and armed themselves a little. The speaker woman has katanas behind her back, and there are already knives in her speakers. The camera woman has new guns on her hands, and the TV woman, well, she's just... Also at this moment, you can literally see a video surveillance camera. We used to see it as an agent's head, and here we are again shown it in the form of a regular surveillance camera. And this is quite unusual. Next, POV Big Boy shows the girls where to go and the first one goes to the place where he indicated. He destroys the toilet and we see all this already on the tablet of a lucky cameraman. We see the same squad of agents who are in the bunker riding in the elevator. And this is logical, because in the last 69th episode, they were just getting into the elevator. Next, we can understand that the agents are going upstairs. And then the light turns off abruptly and the flashlights of the cameraman agents begin to turn on. Next, they look at the ceiling and realize that someone is on top and will soon break through the ceiling. This concludes part 1 of episode 70 of Skibidi Toilet. The second part of episode 70 continues the events of the first part, and Skibidi Toilet 70 part 2 begins from the moment where a squad of agents rides in an elevator. Then the lights turn off, we see 2 ghosts and then we hear very strange sounds on the roof of the elevator. Next, the explosion creates a hole on the roof of the elevator and we see an ordinary cameraman agent, but something is wrong with him. But the whole point is that this agent is already dead and the Skibidi Toilet booby-trapped him and threw him to the squad of agents. The enemy bomb exploded and created a large hole in the floor of the elevator, and judging by the green smoke, the bomb was charged with acid. Then the enemy himself goes down into the elevator to the agents. He immediately pierces one of the cameraman agents, and the others start shooting at him with their blasters, and if you look closely, you can see how the enemy slows down due to the fact that he is shot from paralyzing blasters. Then Dark Speaker Man shot at the enemy with his own with knives, and completely deprived him of sight, and then you can hear this sound. This means that the bomb on the enemy has been activated, and one of the cameraman agents decides that he will drop into the elevator shaft with the enemy so that other agents will not be injured. But why did he do it? Why couldn't you just drop the enemy and stay alive? The fact is that the enemy pierced cameraman's agent with his sharp paw, and it would take time to pull out his paw, but there was no extra time, so this brave cameraman saved the lives of his comrades at the cost of his life. Next, the enemy and cameraman fall into the elevator shaft and explode, and we see how the agents are sad about the next loss of an agent in this bunker of toilets. Then the cameraman plunger picks up the weapon of the cameraman's agent and the elevator begins to shake. It seems that the elevator began to break from the damage received. Dark Speakerman immediately understood what was going on and began to rescue the agents. The first was the lucky cameraman, and then the second cameraman agent. At a certain point, the elevator began to fall, and the POV plunger cameraman decides to jump on the wall and catch on thanks to his studded fists. He's literally like Spider-Man crawling up walls using spikes on his fists. Next, he is already getting close to the exit. He turns around and sees how only one dust remains from the elevator in which they were traveling. Then he turns again and sees Dark Speaker Man pulling a helping hand to him, but the plunger cameraman does not need help. He beats off his hand and jumps to the exit himself. Next, the lucky cameraman looks at his tablet where they need to go. The lucky cameraman showed the way and the plunger cameraman led them along. But in this corridor where the agents are located, it is very dark and the skibidi sounds of the opponents are heard. The agents understand that they are very close to the opponents, and in order not to attract their attention, they turned off their flashlights. Even Dark Speaker Man turned off the light of his speaker, and then POV plunger cameraman turned on a night vision camera. This can also be understood thanks to this inscription. They go very quietly to the door, but still the opponents turn on the light and notice a squad of agents. Then a lucky cameraman quickly breaks down the door. They pass on and the lucky cameraman quickly closes the door. But also at the moment when the agents came in, you can notice this inscription on which it says Test Lab. And what do you think it means? Write your theories in the comments. Next, the agents very quickly run after the lucky cameraman, and he opens and closes the doors so that the opponents do not catch up with them. Next, a lucky cameraman runs up to this door, and we just saw this frame in one of the information leaks. A lucky cameraman opens the door, and then the most interesting thing begins. The agents ran inside and the lucky cameraman closed the door. Now they think they are safe, but they are not, and at the first viewing it may not be noticed. But if you slow down the video and look closely, you can see how the enemy is hiding behind this blue box. Next, the POV plunger cameraman examines the room, and there are very, very many references to previous episodes. This is the knife of Dark Speaker Man. This is the spear from Skibidi Policeman. This is the mechanical tentacles from Skibidi Toilet. This is the knife of Titan Speaker Man. This is the head of Spider Cameraman. This is the arm of Titan Cameraman. This is the jet turbine of Titan TV Man. This is the speaker of Titan Speaker Man, and further here we have very important plot information. Plunger cameraman comes to the table and he picks up some document. Here I assume that Skibidi Toilet and Astro Skibidi Toilet have concluded some kind of agreement, or else it describes what ordinary Skibidi Toilets are fighting with Astro Toilets. Everything is written in Greek Skibidi language, therefore, it is difficult to make out something here. But if you see any sense here, then write about it in the comments. Next, the plunger cameraman puts this document, and we see how information is pasted on the wall, which reveals information about the secret agent to us. And if you say literally what is written there, then it is quite difficult to make out, because not all the words are readable here, but the meaning is clear. The secret agent is the new administrator of this database. Previously, it was a secret base, a secret laboratory, which was funded by the government, and the first Skibidi Toilets appeared in this laboratory. And this scientist who shakes hands with a secret agent looks like either a scientist from the Beatbox universe, or the very first Skibidi Toilet who appeared in the series in the first episode. You can also write your theories in the comments so that we can work together. We figured out what's going on in the Skibidi Toilet plot. There is also a date on this newspaper on July 2nd, 1979. And the 2nd of July is just the date when the secret agent first appeared in the series. Specifically, he appeared in episode 45, and episode 45 was released on July 2nd. Next, the plunger of the cameraman turns, and we see how the lucky cameraman holds in his hands the very book that we saw in the leaks. but only now we learn that this book depicts the logo of TV Man's agents. Also in the background, you can see how Dark Speaker Man is watching what is in these flasks, and in them there is a protective lens, then headphones and a backpack for the reinforcement of cameraman agents. A lucky cameraman points to the logo and does not understand at all what the books of TV Man's agents are doing in this place, and a little later I will tell you how they ended up here. Then suddenly a mechanical, sharp tentacles appears and pierces the lucky cameraman agent, and it seems that at this moment his luck is over, because he is literally thrown out and he hits and breaks one of the glass stands. Then the plunger cameraman sees the enemy, and from the first viewing I did not even understand who it was. But if you look closely, you can understand that this character has already appeared in the series before, and this is the same Skibidi Toilet Scout who does not have a mouth, and he appeared in episode 42, and just the same this room is the room of this toilet. This is Skibidi Toilet Collector. He collects various attributes that belong to certain characters, and just the same, I assume that he stole the books of TV Man's agents, and just the same, based on these books, this toilet created a TV for himself, thanks to which he hypnotizes agents. And by the way, at the moment of radiation, we can see how the inscription appears on the screen "and you self." And it seems that the same inscription appeared on the Titan cameraman at the moment when he was hypnotized by a Skibidi scientist in episode 67. We can also observe how the hands of cameraman agents reached for their heads, and Dark Speaker Man realized what was the matter and began to close the cameras to cameraman agents so that they would not obey the radiation of the toilet. And then when the camera plunger cameraman was outside the radiation zone, he put on a protective lens. Then he turned around and saw that the second agent could not be saved, and he succumbed to the hypnosis of the opponent, and also the toilet began to attack the Dark Speaker Man. Next, the plunger cameraman threw his sharp, spiked plunger directly into the opponent's screen, from which he crashed, and further thanks to the weapon that he picked up in the elevator, he closed both eyes of the opponent, after which Dark Speaker Man used his sound to stun the toilet, and already the plunger cameraman dealt the opponent the final blow. Next, Dark Speaker Man says thank you to the plunger cameraman, and by the way, you can see how the headphones of Dark Speaker Man broke. Then the plunger cameraman approached the body of the lucky cameraman and took the very device that the secret agent gave to the lucky cameraman. But did the lucky cameraman die? Personally, I think he will come back in the future. I believe that a secret agent will come to rescue him. What do you think? Write your theories in the comments. Next, Dark Speaker Man smashed one of the stands and took a new weapon, specifically a spear, and it reminded me of the God of War game, because Kratos has a new weapon in the form of a spear in the God of War Ragnarok game. Next, the plunger cameraman broke one glass and took the headphones, then broke the second glass and took the reinforcement backpack. Next, he broke down the door with the help of a secret agent device, and they, along with Dark Speaker Man, continued to get out of this terrible secret bunker of toilets. This is the end of the second part of episode 70. Part 3 of episode 70 directly continues the previous part, which means that most likely we will see the new extra scene only after part 1 of episode 70, and also after part 3. But that's just my theory. Plunger cameraman breaks the door using the secret agent's remote, and then he and the Dark Speaker Man plan to keep moving towards the scientist, but we also see the nearest door being kicked very hard. But POV plunger cameraman decides to ignore it and continues to move through the large corridor of the bunker using the jetpack. He looked around the corner and saw that the Skibidi guard had stopped looking that way and went straight down the hallway. Plunger cameraman continued walking towards the door, but suddenly the door itself opened and out of it came Skibidi guard and immediately looked towards the cameraman, but his camera began to get interference, and in the upper right corner appeared the inscription "transmission error, recording error." And at this point we can see the plunger cameraman become invisible or transparent, just like the ghosts we've seen in the elevator in past episodes. Next, the toilet passes by and the cameraman himself notices that he has become invisible. He turns to see what became of the Dark Speaker Man, and he also became transparent and calmly walked in front of the enemy. Then we also notice the cameraman whose camera is glowing green. Also at this moment we hear the voice of the secret agent, but his words are unintelligible, so I could not decipher what he says, but if you understand him, then be sure to write his phrases in the comments. Next, Dark Speaker Man calls plunger cameraman to go further into the door where Skibidi Toilet came out. Then the door started to close, but the cameraman opened it using the secret agent's remote, and I could hear the secret agent say goodbye. Here's a listen for yourself. Goodbye. Then we see how on the computer that Skibidi scientist was looking at was a secret agent, and is he really cooperating with the toilets and giving them different information about the agents? We'll talk about that later, but for now we continue our analysis. The computer returns to its original state and the interference from the plunger cameraman stops. Next the scientist turns to the agents and he is very pleased to see them. Also Skibidi guard saw how the agents managed to get into the room to the scientist and immediately launched an attack. But the Chamberlain closed the door in time and was able to bounce back from being hit by the laser. Skibidi scientist was of course surprised that the plunger cameraman has such a device, but he was not confused and entered some command on his remote control, thanks to which he was able to activate the laser that was in the room. It seems that the scientist knew that the agents would find him sooner or later and had prepared some traps in advance, but the cameraman successfully deactivated it, also using his remote, but the second laser hit right next to the agent and did some damage to him, but the plunger also successfully deactivated it. Then the Skibidi scientist tried to leave the place, but the plunger also did not let him do it and closed the door. Well, after that the scientist tried to teleport and was sure that he would succeed, but even here the plunger was able to hack his own remote and prevent him from teleporting. The Chamberlain defiantly called the scientist to him, for a fight would be inevitable, and the scientist accepted the challenge. He took out a powerful laser from his mechanical toilet and began to attack the agent. But also at that moment the dark speaker man joined the plunger and thrust his spear into the Skibidi scientist's head, and also flew at the scientist with only one knife in his hand. Then Plunger decided that now is the right moment to do a lot of damage to the scientist, but the scientist was able to repel these attacks, and then we see how the scientist literally tears Dark Speaker Man in two and throws him out, thinking that one of the agents is finished. But in the moment and the Plunger cameraman flew at the scientist Skibidi, we can see that Dark Speaker Man was still alive. And this attack of the cameraman the scientist was able to hold back, and it seemed that our protagonist was about to be torn into two parts. But the brave Dark Speaker Man attacked the scientist with his bare hands and broke his glasses. The scientist was able to throw away the Speaker Man again, but the Plunger cameraman took advantage of the moment and threw his sharp plunger into the scientist. This made the scientist very angry, and then he took out his powerful laser again and pointed it at the cameraman, but Plunger managed to put the weapon he had with him in front of him and it saved him, but his arm was torn off after the shot. You can see that from this moment. After this Skibidi the scientist switched back to the Dark Speaker Man and shot him with a laser, but Speaker Man acted like a real brutal man. He wasn't afraid of the scientist and death. He didn't even try to save himself from it. He just showed the scientist how much he hated him, and the scientist dealt the Dark Speaker Man the worst damage. Then he uses the secret agent's remote to remove the hacking effect from his remote and tries to teleport. But suddenly the reinforcements we saw at the end of episode 69 burst into the room, and the big TV man says a phrase that sounds like, "I'll demolish you," and proceeds to literally absorb the teleport energy using his main TV. You can also notice that on his extra hands are not TVs, but speakers. Next, the scientist immediately pulled out a laser and attacked the big TV man agent. But the agent held back the blow, and besides the blinding glow he activated his big sound wave, and the scientist not only lost his balance but was also thrown into the wall by the sound wave, and the agent started shooting at him with a paralyzing ray. But as we can see, the scientist is more robot than creature and the paralyzing ray does not affect him. Next he activates some command on his remote again and jumps down this lab. The big TV man doesn't know what to expect from the scientist, so he tells the cameraman's crew to stand back now. And then we see that the Skibidi scientist has a new and improved robotic body with stronger weapons and a sturdy body. You can also see that his eyes are red, which proves that he is in a robot. And even though the door behind the agents closes and logically it should be strong enough to escape the laser shot, the scientist still breaks through the door and damages the first squad of reinforcements and continues to attack them with laser shots. But in the meantime a second squad appears from the other door, including the female agents and a large DJI CAD cameraman. The female squad seizes the moment and infiltrates deep inside the robotic exoskeleton of the scientist and further to buy them time. The big cameraman agent starts firing his powerful cannon at the scientist, causing one of his lasers to go down, and the scientist only pays attention to the big cameraman. The scientist activates the power of all the lasers and tries to destroy the big agent. But the agent dodges well, and the scientist only destroys all the equipment in the room. And also in the moment when we are shown him from the back, we can notice the female squad that penetrates into the inside of the robot. And then when the scientist does manage to damage the Giga Chad cameraman, he decided that he was done with the agents, but suddenly all his energy faded and we see him convulsively crashing into everything and making very loud screams. Then the robot goes silent and we see the real scientist get out of the robot and he is attacked by all the female agents at once. He manages to fend off each attack and then we see a close-up of our favorite girl agents who are ready to continue the fight and finish the scientist for good, but he again enters some code on his control panel and tries to fly away. But as soon as the hatch opens we see 3 titans who seem to have been waiting for him, but by the scientist's reaction he didn't seem to expect to see them at all and only at that moment he realized that now he is finished. He was easily taken by the Titan cameraman and first he fried the scientist using his reactor, then the Titan TV man squeezed the flaming coal in his hand very hard, and then the Titan speaker man first looked at him very nicely and then started shouting very loudly at this lump of coal and then decided to drive it like a nail into the wall using his hands. And then when the Titan calmed down, what was left of the scientist Skibidi fell from above. And who would have thought that the main villain of this universe would end up as such a lump of blood, metal, and coal? Then POV plunger cameraman took off his protective lens that Big Agent cameraman gave him and at this point Big Agent TV man teleported into this place and he looks very shabby. His main screen is shattered. One of his 4 tentacles is missing, another one is missing a speaker and the third one is still on fire. But he's got the cameraman agents alive and well and it looks like they're the agents he managed to save. And then he says a phrase that goes like this, "Just a scratch." Just a scratch. The cameraman then turns around and crawls over to his best friend Dark Speaker Man to see him and see what condition he is in and surprisingly he was still alive. Plunger cameraman took his hand and Dark Speaker Man squeezed it and took one last look at his best friend and comrade Plunger cameraman. And this is a really sad moment, because these guys have always been the best comrades. They always protected each other and supported each other in a difficult moment, and despite the events that took place in the bunker they remained best friends to the end. Other characters also feel it. For example, TV woman at this point has a crying smiley face on the TV and camera woman looks very sad. Next, the interference reappears on the cameraman's POV camera and he starts to see the agents who are no longer alive. First he sees the lucky cameraman. And then he sees the twins who say hello to each other and then turn to the plunger cameraman and their cameras start to glow green. After that the most mysterious part of this episode begins. Because we see a secret agent who is sitting at a desk and on his desk we see a cameraman's head, a speaker man, and a TV man. He also has a computer and a green folder on his desk. In this scene the secret agent thanks the plunger cameraman for having prepared the scientist for him, and also tells him that there is a bigger threat at the moment in the form of astro toilets. He also tells the cameraman that he did not survive the battle and therefore his purpose in life is over. And we can see from the secret agent's face that it's hard for him to say it to Plungerman, but apparently it's a canonical event and without it the universe can't develop further. Then we move again and see that Plungerman begins to spark very strongly and his camera is not natural interference. Camera woman wants to help Plungerman, but TV woman makes her realize that nothing can be done in this situation and then he turns to Titan cameraman and shows him Titan's legendary gesture. Titan doesn't know how to help his friend and the last thing Plungerman sees is Titan cameraman and then we see this picture. This is the end of the 3rd part of the 70th episode of Skibidi Toilet. In this secret extra scene, we watch on behalf of Agent Cameraman. But is he a patient or an investigator like this agent? That's a hard question to answer at this point. Also we see for the first time in the series Agent Cameraman Doctor. I remind you that earlier in the series we saw only agents engineers, which by the way were also present in this scene. I assume that these are agents who were recently injured in past episodes, specifically from episode 65. Also, absolutely everyone was attracted by this cameraman in a cape and hat. Most people think that this is the future protagonist of the show. But what if DaFuq added here this cameraman as a reference to YouTubers who analyze his series? We are also analyzers of sorts and we are doing a real investigation of what is going on in the series. Therefore, personally, I am of the opinion that this character is an Easter egg and not a hint of the next main character. I have an even bigger question about the POV of the cameraman in this episode. Because what if the cameraman in question is the simp cameraman? I rewatched episode 70 and I have no evidence that we saw the ghost of simp cameraman specifically. We definitely saw the ghosts of lucky cameraman and twin cameraman, but simp cameraman was not there. So what if in episode 57 the cameraman managed to save our cameraman in love and at this point he has been rehabilitated and is healthy again? Write your theories in the comments, because I'm really interested to read them. Episode 71 begins with one of the POV cameramen holding a clipboard and watching the events that happened in episode 70. The events are probably happening at the same time, and this 71st episode is just an addition to the 70th episode, because in it we are shown how the Titan TV man damaged one of his televisions. But we'll talk more about that. The next thing that happens in the episode is that when the secret agent started to speak his words, the recording and broadcasting of the cameraman's POV on the tablet stopped. Now we know what the agents see when a secret agent takes control of who the agents are watching. Next, the POV cameraman puts the tablet away and looks at one of the Titan TV man's televisions. This TV was smashed by a Skibidi rocket man, but at this point these were no ordinary rockets. They look pretty unusual and very powerful since they were able to smash one of Titan TV man's screens. Then Titan picks up his screen and says a secret phrase, and if you know what he said then be sure to post it in the comments. Personally, I hear the phrase, "You are so dead." Then POV operator turns and we see how from behind the mountains appear large rocket launchers and then they begin to fly towards the Titans, but the Titans are ready for anything, so successfully repel this attack. And each Titan did it differently. For example, Titan cameraman used his plasma rocket launchers, Titan speaker man fired at the missiles using his blasters, and Titan TV man showed us his new ability, which I would call as energy shockwave, and although these missiles did not hit the Titans, one of the reflected missiles fell right on the POV operator, and then we switched to another POV operator, who for some reason was watching the POV operator, on behalf of whom we have been watching the new episode for 10 seconds. This particular POV operator's tablet only says just cameraman, meaning it does not have a specific number on it as it did in previous episodes. The POV looks up and sees explosions going off behind the mountains. That is most likely where the events we saw at the beginning of the episode took place. Further, we see how helicopters of cameraman agents continue to fly to this location. Also here we can see cameraman, who is approaching the helicopters. Maybe he goes to meet reinforcements. And also here we can see dancing agent speaker man, and honestly I do not understand why he is dancing, because if the events of 70 and 71 episodes occur at the same time, then most likely the scientist has not been defeated yet. But anyway, this dude moves really well. Next, we see a cameraman agent with a new weapon. This is exactly the weapon we saw in the leaks for episode 71. Next, the POV of the cameraman is examined and we can see the cameraman engineers fixing one of the agents. And next we can notice the cameramen who have no special equipment, and they also have a large cameraman agent with them. These characters were probably one of the first to arrive and miraculously survive the battle. And this particular agent, who is in special gear, is asking them what happened here. And in the background you can see a strange silhouette as if it is the same agent detective we saw in the additional scene to episode 71. Write your theories in the comments. Do you see a cameraman here, or is it just me? Next, one of the helicopters made a not-so-soft landing and the cameraman engineer promptly ran to his aid. Then POV notices that one of the cameramen heard something strange, and judging by the sounds it is right below them, and also his attention is attracted by a strange panel on a rock. We saw it in one of the leaks. Next is the cyborg cameraman, or what should we call him? Because one of his arms is a real machine gun. So he points down, and a second later we see something happen. The ground starts to let up and the cameramen get into a tactical fighting position. We hear a familiar skibidi voice, and the first to emerge from this secret hole. It's two Skibidi helicopter pilots who are holding a container, and it looks like it contains something very important, otherwise why else would they take it? Write your theories about what it might contain. And I'll include the most interesting ones in my next video on theories for future episodes. The cameramen begin to attack this container, but their lasers do not do any damage to the enemies, and consequently the enemies fly away without taking any serious damage. The POV cameraman turns around and sees the helicopters continuing to stay in one place. Probably they wanted to fly after them, but a loud roar stopped them, and then the POV cameraman turns around again and the maximally upgraded G-Toilet Titan appears in front of us, and to be honest it looks very heavy and maximally armed. The cameramen realize that they can't handle him and start hiding, but the Titan has already activated his lasers against them, and the cameraman's POV is thrown off by the shockwave. In the interference we see Titan easily destroying the very helicopters of the cameraman, and then when the POV comes to its senses and the interference disappears we see Titan destroying everyone who was here, and also Skibidi DJ can be seen here. It seems that after Astro Skibidi Toilet tore him apart, He did it just to show how cold-blooded and ruthless he is. But he also left this character alive, and you can tell he's very sad, because now he's just a regular toilet without any cool upgrades. Next we see the Skibidi hybrid holding the engineer's cameraman, and then he goes and cuts it into pieces. Also, if you stop the video at this point, you can see two Skibidi workers that we saw in episode 68. Also on the back of the Skibidi hybrid we can see two big katanas, and also on his arm as we can see there is now a laser beam. Also further, the G-Toilet Titan communicates with the Skibidi hybrid using facial expressions. He didn't do that before, at least I didn't notice it. Then all of his soldiers fly away and he stays behind to eliminate all witnesses. He fires his lasers at the POV operator and then we see a lot of interference, but he continues to broadcast. Next we see the same Astro Toilet we saw in episode 70 appear in this location. He notices the operator's POV, but does not kill him, but only flies away after the G-Toilet. Then the flames intensify and the camera cuts out. Well, this episode answered some questions, but we got a lot of new ones. Like what's in that container? Then where did all the toilets go? Do they have a new secret base? Or did they fly to the Astro Toilet base? If you have theories, then be sure to share them in the comments or on my Discord server, and the most interesting ones will be in the next video. Well, that's the end of season 23 of Skibidi Toilet. I'm sure that Mr. Boom will show us some additional scenes in this season, and their analysis you can also watch on my channel. Now let's talk about what we can expect in the next episode and in the whole season 24 in general. I think that now all our attention will be attached to Astro Toilets, and in this season we saw how strong they are, because with one Astro Toilet could not cope even with a trio of Titans, not to mention the usual agents. So I think that next season, and most likely at the very end, will show a new race of agents. And what a surprise if they're not Computermans. What if it's a race of completely different agents? Or what if the agents start combining? That is, like how TV Man's agents have a combination with Speaker Man's agents. We saw their hybrid version not only in episode 70 where the big TV Man's agent had speakers instead of extra TVs, we also saw the Titan Cinema Man that was shown to us back in episode 44. So TV Mans can evolve to Computer Man's agents by themselves, but that's just my theory. And you can write your theories in the comments, and the most interesting ones will be in the next video. Also now my other videos are on your screens, so choose your favorite one and have fun watching them.